Hey, this is Jessica from the Friendly Atheist podcast. So Hemant right now is, as far as I know, in the hospital with his wife, she went into labor yesterday. Haven't heard from him since, so hopefully everything's going great. Sending good vibes. So today I am joined by...
Hello, it's Anne Bouleanu, back by someone's demand.
My demand.
Jessica's.
My personal demand.
Yeah.
If you recognize Anne, she was on our show 3 months ago-ish. It was on International Women's Day when we recorded, so March-ish.
Yeah.
And so she's in to guest host, and I'm
Yes,
really
I am.
stoked about it.
I'm excited. I think it's going to be fun.
I think it's going to be super fun. This was also a really controversial episode because some people complained that we sounded too girly, and I super lost my mind. And
yeah, you did.
I didn't
It was great.
I don't know why. It really stuck in my craw. I don't know. It just sucked.
Well, yeah, because it's just like, I don't like hearing women's voices in public.
Yeah, that was really kind of what it came down to.
Yeah.
Not like we said anything stupid, just like they sound a way I don't like.
Yeah, well, to
Anyway.
that listener, goodbye.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you've already paused.
So we're here in Anne's apartment in Chicago. I've got wine back. Anne has gin.
Yes, I do.
I haven't been drinking wine during recording for some reason. Well, because we've been recording earlier than usual.
Oh, yeah.
Although it's 3 o'clock. Oh, it's almost 4 o'clock now. This is what time I record with Hemant. And with Hemant, it feels too early to drink. With you, it's a Friday.
Yeah, it's fine.
We're celebrating. It took me 40 minutes to get this set up.
Yeah, it did take a little
I
while.
was sweating really hard. So anyway, so if you like what you're listening to, not sure why, you can go to patreon.com/friendly atheist podcast. Thank you so much to everybody who donates. It means so much to us. We are about halfway, like 2/3 to our goal. Have you heard our goal for Patreon?
I don't think I have.
Once we hit a certain threshold, not know what it is, I'm going to make Hemant watch Star Wars with me because he's never seen it.
Any of them?
I can't even with him. Like it's just a lot for me to deal with. So, but I also don't like the Star Wars movies. So we're making
happening. I don't.
So we're making my husband watch
One
with
surprise after the next.
us. I mean, the original one. Come on, it's the writing.
All right, I think we better back off.
Okay.
Because I'm not like a crazy super fan, but
Yeah.
like I have to defend.
I mean, I respect what it did for the culture, and I respect it a lot
brought us
about
Carrie
it.
Fisher.
It did bring. Oh, bless her.
Mm-hmm.
But the writing is pure garbage.
Oh my
like George Lucas is a
I'm
universe
so worried
builder.
that people are going to find out where you live.
Oh, they
now.
know. I've talked about this a lot because I was like, oh, let's watch Star Wars, and I was like, wait, I don't like this movie. Okay, listen. So we're all set up, and so Anne is gonna sit in, and we're gonna do same as usual. I actually did research today. You're welcome, universe. And let's get going. I'm gonna have to write down timestamps. This is gonna be a really stressful episode for me.
Yeah, Jessica is very stressed out. I'm relaxed.
I'm like my upper lip is sweaty. Okay, so
It's also 80 degrees out. So
yeah, that's fine.
part of it.
No AC in here because sound quality.
Yeah.
Also I'm drinking 14 Hands Cab, and I was trying
They're our sponsor this week. I'm just gonna-
wish 14 Hands, get at me. I really was trying hard to find like a punny wine name.
Yeah.
Like, because last time I was here, I brought Muckraker. We were talking.
yeah, that was good.
So I tried really hard, and I couldn't find anything, so I just bought my favorite wine. So
Well, good.
So I figured that
Well,
was...
Jessica likes horses. If
I
anybody's missed out
I
on
do
that.
like horses, and
Okay.
also this is a good wine, so it's
There you
two things to
go.
be true. Okay, cool. So getting started. First topic. So actually, one of the reasons I really was excited that Anne was going to be on this week is that Anne and I both share a love of true crime.
Yeah, we do.
So last time we hung out, we definitely watched that Jonestown documentary, which was horrifying. It was the fourth time I've seen it. So recently, a study came. I have issues. So recently, a study came out that there was a new report that was in the Journal of Nature Human Behavior, which seems like a typo on my end. Natural human behavior? Doesn't matter. So it included more than 3,000 people in 13 countries. And essentially it was trying to find biases regarding a person who committed mass murder and whether or not we assume they are an atheist or not.
Okay.
So what I think, okay, so this is what the questionnaire was. So So the questionnaire began with a description of a sociopath, a man who, having tortured animals when young, later began hurting people and, quote, has killed 5 homeless people that he abducted from poor neighborhoods in his home city.
Oh, God.
So this is like, he's got a rich backstory for this particular survey. Their dismembered bodies are currently buried in his basement. So a little John Wayne Gacy there.
Sure.
So a question followed. And so again, this is 3,000 people in 13 countries. So this is by no means like an American-centric quiz. So half of the people got this question: which is more probable? 1, the man is a teacher, or 2, the man is a teacher and does not believe in any gods. The other half got 1, the man is a teacher, 2, the man is a teacher and a religious believer. So I don't know a ton about these kinds of surveys, but I find that method of questioning very odd. Do you?
No, I think that you're trying to elicit a pretty specific response.
Yeah.
It's,
I guess
I would say that borders on like a push poll, like where you're trying to push for a specific answer.
Because it just, I don't know, and I'm sure, they know better than I do, but I would imagine it would be, do you think it's more likely that this man is a religious believer versus this man believes in no gods?
Yeah, the teacher thing is strange, but I'm not a pollster. I don't know.
Yeah, I clearly...
a lot of times I'll read polls and be like, what a weird question.
Yeah, it's their whole jam, so they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So what's interesting about this particular survey is that about 60% of the people who had the option to flag the teacher as an atheist did so. So of the half of the people who got the atheist question. So 30% of the people who had the option to flag the teacher, to flag the teacher as a religious believer did so. So what is very interesting about this is self-identified non-believers were less biased than the average, but not by much. So even
atheists thought
this guy's probably an atheist.
Really?
Mm-hmm, which I think is really interesting. And I tried
How
to...
weird.
Isn't that strange?
Yeah.
And I almost went down, or I tried to go down a really deep rabbit hole of religiosity in serial killers, which is, it's really hard to find data on it. But, like, anecdotally, I feel like...
BTK immediately pops to mind.
BTK, John Wayne Gacy, I believe, was involved with his church. So, like, I feel like anecdotally you hear a lot of people who... And this is where it gets tricky, right? Because, yes, they can say they were involved. So BTK killer he worked for his church, right? Because that's eventually how he got busted, because he, like... he like sent
horrible.
them not a drive. It would have been a disc then, and was like, he asked
trackable,
the
right, to his church.
The police, like, if I give you a disc, can you track where it came from? And they're like, no,
of course not. Why would you think that?
And guess what? Super could.
Oh God, he
was the pits.
Terrible. BTK. By the way, you cannot nickname yourself.
Oh my God. You cannot nickname yourself.
Little gauche.
How dare you?
Yeah.
And
bind, torture, kill for people who don't know.
And he gave them options, and one of them...
Did you really?
Okay. I cannot recommend... So last podcast and the left did a 3-part podcast series on him, and it's... That podcast, not everybody's cup of tea. It has a little shock jock vibe to it.
Yeah.
But they get really in deep. And their hatred for this guy, not because he was a murderer, like obviously that's a given.
Right.
But he was just fucking lame. Like he just sucked. One of his suggestions was the Phantom Garrote.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yep. Uh-huh. So, but anyway, so the point is, and further, a lot of people would claim Christianity once they went to prison. So Ted Bundy's an example of I can't think of
he was saved.
Yeah, all of that fun stuff.
Sure.
So, but I mean, that's all kind of anecdotal. I couldn't find anything credible to like link people to their, between Christianity and mass murder or serial murder.
Right.
So, but anyway, I think it's interesting that atheists would assume somebody
that's
who
the
kills...
most interesting thing for me.
Yeah. So what do you...
Because, like, Christians identifying that way, or really any religious person, I mean, atheists being evil, godless sinners is...
True.
First and foremost accurate.
Yeah.
But, that makes sense to me. But atheists identifying that's strange to me.
Yeah. And so when I was trying to dig up what... and because of the 2 people who are hosting this podcast, I'm going to guarantee you this is going to get into some feminist rant territory. So just like guys who emailed me that I need to lay off white guys, this is not going to be... People
I'm so sorry.
have opinions about me.
I know. I follow you on Twitter.
Yeah. So anyway,
I've seen it.
I tried to dig up, and I went into mass shootings instead of serial killers because there's just more of them to draw from. There's more studies about them. And so I couldn't find anything that connected religiosity or fanaticism or anything like that to religion, nor did race. It seems that among mass shooters, the race tends to mirror the race of the population.
Right.
But guess what is one trend? Of 133 mass shooters, this is a Washington Post article called The Math of Mass Shootings. Out of 133 mass shooters, and I believe this is since Columbine, so 1996, I think?
98, I think.
98. 133 mass shooters. 130 of them were...
White guys.
No, just male.
See, now everybody can attack me on Twitter.
Yeah. Give them your handle.
I'll do that at the end. So then you'll have to listen all the way through.
Oh, yeah. So you can be mad at Anne?
Me. Yeah.
Never gotten threatened.
No. I think it's generally a friendly audience. Yes.
But 130 out of 133 were men.
Right.
And so when we're looking for trends in people who murder, that's the only... that's the only consistent indicator. And I just think it's really... Because don't you feel like if it was... women were a trend of doing XYZ, people would be like, what's going on? Like, why are women doing this?
Yes, because women generally tend to be less violent physically.
Yeah. And
emotionally. Let's get into that.
But I just think that's an interesting thing that, like, how come nobody's ever shown a light on that and said, like, what's going on in our culture? And I shouldn't say nobody.
I think that's really important.
But it's a conversation we don't have very frequently, right? Like,
no, it's not. And especially with young men with Columbine, a lot of people took inspiration from that. You know, the trouble.
People have tattoos of the Columbine.
Like, I mean, you're going to find that kind of population with anything. But no, I think it is something that should be looked at, and it's part of our entire society's ills, which is that we do celebrate kind of conformity and traditional male roles without addressing the problems with that, and how if somebody feels left out of that society but is still being told that you deserve more,
so you're kind of saying,
like, there's going to be resentment.
You're saying kind of male entitlement, that they see this, like, I'm this person in this station, I should have the girlfriend, I should have the attention. Like, there's so many men who what's his name, Elliot Rodgers, I think his name is.
Oh god,
right. The
Santa Barbara guy.
Yeah, he really, like, went on these rants of that, like, women owed him this. He didn't get attention from women. And oh my god, I don't know if you've ever seen any of his
videos. He's like in his car feeling sorry for himself while there's like a gorgeous beach in the background. I'm like, go outside.
And he's like, look how good looking I am, and I'm a perfect gentleman, and blah blah blah. And still you women won't get oh my god. Like, the more you yell that you're a nice guy, the less I'm gonna believe you, right? And so when you look at this male entitlement, and this is obviously the most extreme. I'm not saying that, like,
no, of course not.
Like, dude bros on the internet, like, are all going to do this. But I just think it's an interesting pattern that when you have 50% of the population is male and they commit, I'm going to round it and say 99% of the mass shootings since the 90s. Like, how come nobody's like, hey guys, what's up?
I think it's because people don't want to address that for a large swath of the male population, patriarchy also is a disservice to them.
Yes, I think you're completely right.
Right, like, what about a world in which a young guy felt free to be a little different?
Well, yeah, and I think
that would be great
staying on
for that guy and all the young girls around him and just everybody.
Yeah, and staying on our serial killer sort of bend, John Wayne Gacy, who is a Chicago serial killer that he murdered, I think, 19 or 27, maybe. I don't know. Doesn't matter. Young boys, teenagers, and buried them in his basement, his crawl space. Yeah. And he, when you go back and look at his life as a young boy, he felt closer to his mother. He had more quote unquote feminine interests. He wanted to cook. He didn't want to do this, and his dad would beat the shit out of him because he wasn't conforming to this. So when we talk about toxic masculinity, to me that's like the perfect example of it. Of like, this kid wasn't aligning himself with these gender roles, and was his dad flipped out so hard, beat the shit out of him, and ruined his brain. Like
it's terrible.
I think he would, like, had things been equal, I think he identified as, I think he was attracted to men. Yes. Whether he's attracted to women too, I don't know. But he found that part of him so hateful because of this message that he got from his dad that it, like, broke him. It turned him into a literal monster.
Yep.
Oh, and he dressed up as a
there's
clown.
Also
Pogo the clown.
The clown. There's also, of course, with serial killers and violent offenders in general, kind of a genetic component that, like, okay, all sociopaths and psychopaths are not killers.
Right.
But a large portion of violent offenders in prison are sociopaths and psychopaths. So it is that difference between, could John Wayne Gacy have been just, like, kind of emotionless or fucked up, but not killed people if his childhood had been different? Maybe.
Yeah.
But
I mean, that's what nature versus nurture. That's like,
right. And it's a combination. I think, yeah.
Generally. Oh, for sure. And I think I wonder, have you ever read The Psychopath Test?
No, I have not.
I want to read
it. Sociopath Next Door.
Oh, did you? Was it?
Yeah, it's
terrifying?
Good anecdotes, but it's, like, not very well written.
Ooh, on blast.
I'm sorry. Like, if a book takes me 3 hours to read because I'm mostly skimming it, I don't know.
The Psychopath.
Try to be honest with
No, I appreciate it. The listeners appreciate it. I haven't read The Psychopath Test, but the author of it, whose name escapes me right now, went on NPR and, like, gave the psychopath test to, like, a bunch of the staff members, and it was really funny to listen to. Like, my favorite part is they would go, and he asked very, like, what's the worst thing you've ever done? What's it, like, really pressing questions, and everybody was worried that they were going to be a psychopath, and he was like, hey, if you cried in the room with me, that means you're probably not a sociopath or a psychopath.
Because I really liked seeing you cry. Is that the guy who researched psychopaths and realized he was one? Because that's a thing. There's, like, a TED Talk by this guy. Oh my God. Who, again, though, he was raised, like, nicely in a loving home. And so he's just like, oh, I wound up a brain researcher. But yeah, I'm a psychopath. Like, I'm really callous. I don't understand emotions. Yeah, but that's the difference between, like, that guy's such an asshole and, like, I feel scared around him. That's very different.
Right. And
very different,
like,
vibe.
Not feeling empathy is one thing. Like, if you don't feel, because that's kind of the hallmark of sociopathy, or
right.
And oh my God, I never understand the difference between psychopath and sociopath.
Psychopathy is when you are born with it, and sociopathy is when it's built in. And there's a genetic component to that as well, but it's really more formed by your surroundings.
Oh, that makes sense. Because they say a lot of psychopaths are, like, CEOs and things like that because they have the ability to sort of, like, not worry about the people that they're hurting.
Absolutely. Same with sociopaths. I think that generally it's like when it reaches adulthood, it's just psychologically, scientifically to look at the backgrounds. One is a psychopath, one is a sociopath, but behaviors align in adulthood.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. But and all that's to say, like, so if you're born a psychopath but you're raised with a stable family foundation,
right, you're not going to necessarily turn into a
but even if you don't
person.
Feel empathy, you understand empathy.
Yes.
Like, you understand you're not supposed, like, I don't want to make you feel bad, not because it affects me in any way, but I have been taught that, like, if I make Anne cry, that's probably bad, as opposed to, like,
and it's not bad for her, it's that it's bad to me, because then people will start to socially isolate me. So actually there have been some great studies. There was this great piece in The Atlantic about child psychopaths, and the way to keep the recidivism rate low was actually to flip the script and not say, like, this is really bad, you need to feel for your victims. It's more like a reward system to say, if you do this, you're going to be in jail again.
Oh.
So
that's all they understand is what happens for me.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Which, it's dark, but it's also like, that's fine. If we can keep people from killing people, that's way better.
Whatever works.
Yeah. You can be a dick. That's fine.
Yeah. Do you want to do one of yours?
Sure. Okay, so this is timely considering our impending
I should
destruction.
I should
timestamp this.
Yeah, so it is 4:00 Friday, August 11th, 2017. I literally do that because one of the first times we started doing this format of like talking about current events was right after Trump. It was like we did Trump's first week in office, and literally it's a 15-minute drive from Hemant's to mine where we usually record. And by the time I got home, it was when the travel ban had put.
Oh my God.
Literally,
yeah, that's the thing.
We missed it by 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Anyway, so continue.
Right. This won't be out of date by tomorrow, but we might all be in our basements tomorrow. Like, I don't know.
You don't have a basement. You live in a second floor.
I have a basement.
Do you?
Yeah.
Are you allowed in it?
Anyway. Yes.
Is it just somebody's
really,
apartment? You're
no,
like, this is my bomb shelter,
It's
sir.
a really creepy, like, murder basement.
Oh, yeah, because when I was here last, my dog kept trying to go down there, and I was like, Daddy, you're going to get me
It's
killed.
very scary. Okay, so this one is an evangelical advisor has said, God has given Trump the authority to take out Kim Jong-un. Have you?
No, I didn't, but I saw it.
Okay. Robert Jeffress. He's a favorite evangelical pastor. He is on Trump's religion advisory board.
Sure.
Which is he's super religious, obviously. Anyway.
I talk about this all the time, but the fact that Christians think that Trump is Christian, I know nothing about religion, but I identify the things he says are not. So I think, just quick sidebar, I think I find really interesting is even if you're an atheist now, if you grew up with religion, you use words and phrases differently. So I have seen a lot of ex-Christians and they still I don't believe in the Lord, or they still use specific phrasing that I would never use. God, I wish I could bring
right.
Does that make sense?
I say, oh my God, and Jesus Christ a lot, which I feel like is one of the few things left over from my Catholic childhood, which is just this is my small rebellion, and also the really random bouts of guilt that I feel. I'm what is that? What's happening? I'm just on the couch, why am I feeling guilty? And I'm Catholicism, got it. Okay, we can move on.
Okay. So anyway.
So Robert Jeffress.
2 Corinthians.
Evangelical. Oh, I could never name anything like that. No. Because I was Catholic, and it's just this is what you do. You just go to school and church. So he is the evangelical pastor, has a mega church in Dallas. Mm-hmm. Oh, in July, his church choir sang their "Make America Great Again" song.
Get the fuck
when
out
I was
of
that's
here.
him. That's him. So, and Trump tweeted it out on July 4th, of course. And Trump was in attendance for when they sang this. He also previously said Obama paved the way for the Antichrist, which he might have been right, because here we are. But I don't think that's what he thought.
That wasn't on purpose.
Trump was placed in the presidency by God.
Sure.
Here is a quote.
Okay.
When it comes to how we should deal with evildoers, the Bible in the book of Romans is very clear.
Do you know anything about the book of Romans off the top of your head?
Who wrote it?
No. Do you know anything about the book of Romans off the top of your head?
No.
Okay, I don't either. Go ahead.
God has endowed rulers full of power to use whatever means necessary, including war, to stop evil. In the case of North Korea, God has given Trump authority to take out Kim Jong-un.
Cool.
A Christian, this is again a
quote.
Cool. Quote, a Christian writer asked me, don't you want the president to embody the Sermon on the Mount? He said. I said, absolutely not.
Which one's the Sermon on the Mount?
It's...
So sorry.
No, it's fine. I did not come to destroy but fulfill.
Oh.
Blessed are the poor, blessed are the meek.
Oh,
Don't you want somebody who...
Wasn't that kind of a big deal in Jesus' life?
Oh, yeah. Big one.
So, but not so much that, and more... what's the last one? Revelations?
Oh, yeah.
Is that the one with all the monsters?
Yeah.
God, man, my Bible knowledge is not
Well,
great.
I'm here to help you out. Jeffress has compared Trump to the biblical story of Nehemiah. He helped rebuild the city of Jerusalem, starting with what?
What?
Building a wall around Jerusalem.
Oh, no.
Quote, you see, God is not against building walls.
Wow.
So...
I hope he stretched before that reach.
I mean, honestly. So he says war with North Korea is fine because I guess also killing potentially millions of South Koreans, North Koreans would be fine.
Sure. Well,
and Trump has been given this power.
God, though. So I don't know how
but I mean, wow.
Well, it's this callousness that I'm always shocked at in regard to Christians. It really is a thing that I've been doing this podcast for 3 years. I wrote for the Friendly Atheist before that for, I don't know, I've been doing it for 5.5 years.
Yeah.
And so I've spent a lot of time reading into these kinds of stories. And really that is always the thing that comes back to for me is this callousness of whether it's war, whether it's guns, or whether it's whatever, it's just this sort of idea of, well, it's the collateral damage or it's the sacrifice that people are making. And I just find it like icky and scary.
Yeah, actually that will lead into another story I have that we can talk about later, about that callousness and where some of that comes from.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, is that? Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I know what we're going to talk about. Yeah. So, but just to kind of wrap this up, and here's what I find interesting is when they talk about like God appointed Trump.
Right.
And I guess I don't understand why it's only like when my guy wins, that's God's will.
Right. Because in general, the belief is that God endows people with power and that they are led by the Lord.
Right.
But
why is that only
why
guy?
didn't that apply last year?
Right. And like, okay, Obama won 2 elections.
Right. But he's the Antichrist.
But Trump and further, Obama is a Christian. Like, he proclaims Christianity.
Yeah.
He goes to church.
Right.
So it's so transparent. Okay, I think this is what it comes down to. I am getting so excited I almost shook my headphones off. It's so transparent how Trump is just pretending to be Christian to, you know what I mean? Like,
absolutely. Well, he's pretending to be a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I think that the draw for evangelicals is that, sure, he may be a godless buffoon, but he's their godless buffoon, and they have his ear. So he flip-flops on everything. I mean, day to day, it's completely different.
It's lunacy.
He has no ideology.
No.
And so everybody has crowded around him.
I think that's a really good way to put it. He has no,
he does not
he has no
have
internal
a
moral
core.
Compass.
No.
At all.
And he doesn't really have any core beliefs.
No.
Except to benefit himself.
That's exactly what I was about to say.
Yeah.
It's like, if I'm in power, things are good.
Right. So everybody has scrambled to surround him to say, I have the ear of the president. And everybody, I find it so funny now in retrospect, especially to be like, oh my God, who's going to get to him first? Is it Jeff Sessions? Well, kind of yes, but now he's on the outs. Mitch McConnell, same thing, kind of on the outs. Paul Ryan, it happened to him too. Steve Bannon has been in and out. His main accomplishment right now is just hanging on.
Yeah.
Nobody really has control over him.
Kind of.
Oh yeah, he's always been in.
Yeah.
But evangelicals, these ministers, are consistently there because he's not going to kick them out. They don't have White House offices, but sure, he'll keep up
appearances.
Because they bring in a lot of votes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm curious to see what happens in the next few elections because at least you can. So Mitt Romney, right, was. I mean, I did not vote for him. I disagree with a lot of his policies, but I don't think he was a monster.
No, he looks like a statesman now.
Yeah.
He actually always did project that
and
kind of
leadership.
I've
met Mitt and Anne Romney, right?
What?
Did you not know this story?
I don't think so.
Okay, the shorthand of it's a really involved. Okay, so I lived in Montana for a couple of years.
Right, I was thinking it had to be during that time.
Of course it was.
Yeah.
And so when I was working on the ranch there, I had met a friend who was running the kitchen of this really wealthy guy in the beef world, who was Mormon. And so this guy needed help in the kitchen, and I was living in nowhere, Montana, so I didn't have a ton to do.
Right.
So I ended up working this gorgeous, the most beautiful kitchen I've ever seen it was his private kitchen, but it was the size of a commercial kitchen. It was gorgeous. Oh, so
that
beautiful.
Sounds great.
And so I worked 2 events. I worked his 4th of July thing with his family, which, spoiler alert, a Mormon family is fucking gigantic.
Oh yeah.
so many people. And I bartended for them, and I went through half a bottle of wine among maybe 70 people.
And were those people standing aside as the confused spouses of
yes.
How did I marry into this?
That would be correct. But I mean, it was a beautiful, they were so kind to me. And then he had a second thing that was it might have been his 4th of July celebration or something, but Mitt Romney, and this would have been 2008, right? It was the summer of 2000. It was early summer 2008. So Mitt Romney was still in the running, but he was not the nominee yet. And so they had this event that was, it must have been a fundraiser for Mitt. And so they had all of these people, again, largely Mormon, but like I remember so specifically this one woman like came over to the bar. She's like, because I was just pouring like sparkling water for everybody. Yeah, exactly. And she was like, "Do you have wine back there?" I was like, "I do. Do you want it?" She's like, "Yes, please."
Do you have any? Like, not see-through cups that I can use?
No, I put away this like tray of crystal of like just stemware and not thinking, you know, I carried like 8 of them on a glass and I realized it was $5,000 worth of crystal on the tray and I was just like boop, 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 boop. But anyway, so Mitt Romney was there. I spoke with him briefly. He was very kind, very polite. Anne was wearing a 4th of July, American flag windbreaker. Bless her heart. They could not have been nicer. And at one point they had they had Patsy Cline and an Elvis impersonator.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And we were, like the staff, we were all done.
It sounds like a weirdly fun party, actually.
Honestly, it was super fun. Everybody was very kind. Yeah. Everybody was white. Like, that's a good thing. That was
but just like an observation.
An observation about it. They have this huge outdoor, like it's a beautiful, very tasteful whole, like they weren't like gauche, I guess.
Right.
But anyway, the Elvis guy was singing and myself and the chef, his like head chef, his personal chef, and I were swing dancing. And I guess like later Anne Romney went up to the chef and was like, you two should have given me and Mitt dance lessons. And I was like, God. I'm here. Just like,
I would, yes.
Come, yes. Give me my. Anyway, I also sang a duet with 1985's Miss America. So.
What is this?
I know. It was just this weird.
This is great.
This is such an anecdote. Also, I forgot to timestamp the last thing. Sorry, guys.
We'll have to look back at that.
I'll figure it out. I was bartending and big quotes around that. And I was talking to the guy who owned the place, his name was John. I can't remember his last name right now. And he has this room full of guitars. And I was like, oh, are you a musician? He was like, yeah. And I was like, oh. And at that time I was singing at a bar on Sunday nights with my friend. And I was like, oh, yeah, like I do this. You should come down to
so many talents.
Oh,
you
my
really
God.
do.
Yeah, and it's gotten me so far in my career. I cannot tell you. My resume is like, met Mitt Romney once, kind of a good dancer, sang in a bar, made $12 in tips on average, but got 2 free Coors Lights.
Horses. Just a bullet
horses,
point just says
period.
Horses.
But I was like, oh, like I do this or whatever. And so an hour later, I was in the kitchen and I was eating cookies that I wasn't supposed to be eating. And somebody's like, Jess, John wants you. And I was like my mouth was full. I was like, fuck, but this is it. I'm getting busted because I made a millionaire's cookies. And so I go and he like brings me over to this piano and this beautiful blonde woman is sitting at the piano and like playing. She's like, I hear you sing. And I was like,
oh my God.
Uh-huh. She was like, what do you know? I was like, I don't know. And we ended up singing Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy, and it was really great and fun. And I took top harmony and actually didn't sound like an asshole.
Nice job.
Right?
That's a great thing.
Why
I
can't
love
I
that.
translate that into a career?
I don't know. The world is a deeply unfair place.
Can I just have a career in anecdotes?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
Hey, what were we talking about? Remember when we were doing a podcast about atheism?
That was the North Korea.
Oh, sure.
Somehow
the obvious transition of North Korea.
Sure.
Oh, okay. So what I was saying was Mitt Romney.
Yeah.
Talking about religiosity and things like that. So Mitt Romney, I don't necessarily agree with politics. I don't believe in his faith.
He brought healthcare to Massachusetts.
Oh, yeah. To Massachusetts, for sure. You mean tax on Massachusetts?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. But I don't think he would have been a terrible president. I don't think he's like a monster. I don't think he's a sociopath. I don't think he's a power hungry like monster. And I think that's the big difference here is, and this is not like a hot take, but my problem with Trump isn't that our policies don't align. It's that I have no idea what he believes in. So it seems to me like,
well, it changes every day.
Right. And it's almost like osmosis, like whatever's closest to him is what he believes in that particular moment. Right. So if he's making a speech at Liberty University, then it's going to be Christianity all day.
Evangelicals. If it's immigration, it's Stephen Miller.
Yeah. It's so scary and alarming. And the worst part is like that people are still, and his approvals are down.
Yeah,
right?
but
he's at like 30-something%
is sticking with him.
Yeah, and it seems like this group of people is so not persuaded by facts.
Not at all.
Right? So Trump says, I'm the most accomplished president whatever. And like all of us are like, you haven't pushed any major legislation through.
No.
You're not staffed up. Like there's no ambassador in South Korea or something.
That's correct.
Is that right? Okay.
Yep.
So objective, I guess that's my thing. Is like when we look at objective issues, he's clearly not doing a good job, but like just him saying, no, I'm doing a great job. People are like, oh yeah, he's super doing a great job.
Well, he's altering our reality, which is a trademark of authoritarian rule.
Doesn't it feel super authoritarian? Like
it absolutely is.
It's so alarming. Oh, I tweeted this out, I think yesterday or 2 days ago. I don't know why I'm on their mailing list, but I got an email about like taking a survey for the GOP. Did you see this tweet?
I did see this. Yeah, I took that poll a couple weeks ago, or months ago, actually.
I started taking it, and then it just became like, I don't even know how to answer these because
they're crazy leading questions.
Yeah. So the two I took a screen grab of and it was questions 2 and 3. Like yeah. I didn't like go down and find the weird shit. So the two I have, and I tweeted this out the other day. Do you believe obstructionist liberals in Congress are purposely trying to sabotage the president's agenda? And
right. Talk about, a leading question.
It's leading, but it's also like, I do believe they're trying to sabotage it because it's bad policies.
Right. So, but they're also not having to do too much obstruction.
No.
The Republican Party has torn itself apart.
Right. Oh, it's such a mess. And then the number 3 was, do you trust the capital fake, capital news, capital media to accurately report on President Trump's accomplishments?
Like what? You can't answer that because fake news media is being
that's not a tweet from the president.
Even the left, mainstream media. I'm sorry.
That's not something like somebody said in Fox News. That is a GOP sanctioned question.
Yes.
So if we're gonna talk about like what's going on with politics, the fake news media, calling all news the fake news media is so dangerous. It's so dangerous.
Well, he's attacking the press. It's a trademark first signature move by authoritarian leaders.
Right.
Like this is very real. This is an authoritarian regime.
Mm-hmm.
And most people in the States, we grew up thinking this couldn't happen.
Right.
And so we don't generally have the vocabulary for it. And using the word like authoritarian is very scary, but that's the reality.
Yeah. And I've been rewatching Game of Thrones, which I've been talking about on the podcast because I'm unemployed, so all I do is watch Game of Thrones and apply for jobs and cry quietly on the couch. Anne's really mad because I didn't catch up by today.
I wanted to talk about it.
I promised her I would, but I slept in instead. But watching it and watching the whole King Joffrey deal, it's because the thing is, it's not even like, oh, I see the shit. It's literally the same thing. He says things like, I'm the king, so I get what I want.
And what does Tywin say next?
I don't know.
You don't have to say I'm the king if you're a true king.
Oh, yeah. Take that, Tywin.
Yeah.
Joffrey, motherfucker. I can't keep him straight. So many
That's his dad.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, Tyrion's dad.
Tyrion's
Cersei's dad.
And Joffrey's grandfather.
Yeah.
See, I pay attention.
Yeah.
I kind of know what's going on.
Yeah.
But anyway, because that is such a almost cartoonish portrayal of a child king who
and here we are
going back is a sociopath. It like takes joy in other people's physical and emotional pain.
Yes.
And I feel like I see the same beats in a Trump where it's like he literally like the fact that and we've covered the trans issue I think last week, but the fact that he literally just tweeted out a proclamation.
Yes, and with
thought that was how it worked.
Yeah, you're like, you can't just say it. You have to put this through the proper channels. Which they have yet to do.
I mean, they're not gonna. Like,
they might get around to it eventually. He just answered a question yesterday saying that he did a favor to the military by doing that.
What does that fucking mean? Just whatever.
Almost nothing.
It's like, that's the thing.
Because he can't be accused of taking a vacation because he railed against Obama for it. So now this is a working vacation. Which, during his vacation, I swear, on last Friday, I was like, you know what? I know it's not a real escape from reality, but I'm glad that he'll tweet, but he's on vacation. Like, he can't cause that much destruction. And he's brought us on vacation to nuclear war. I'm like, what's the worst thing I've ever done on vacation? I'm like, get drunk and get a sunburn. Like, what's... fall asleep on the beach and wake up hours later filled with regret. Yeah, right. Like, I have never started a war.
Spring break, I did a beer bong. Right. God, what a nightmare person.
It is. Yeah.
It really
the whole thing is. It feels like we've gone through the looking glass.
Do you feel like your threshold for outrage has lowered or risen, I guess? Like, does it take you more or less to get worked up about a thing?
Well, right. Sometimes he'll tweet something and I'll just be like, ugh, you idiot. And I'm like, this is actually a crazy thing.
What do you say, the Fire and Fury thing?
Oh, that scared me.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah.
So his tweet, do you know the tweet off the top of your head? Do you memorize his tweets?
Oh, well, he said it in a statement when he was supposed to be speaking about the opioid crisis and did not postpone this meeting with the press. And he said that if they best not continue threatening us or they will be met with fire and fury like the world has never seen about that. And there was a great article that put together all of these clips of him saying, like the world has never seen, like the world has never seen, like has never been seen before. So he basically brought us into a nuclear war by engaging in his penchant for hyperbole, because it's just how he is.
Yeah. Well, and he always speaks in superlatives, right?
It's never very, very good. It's the word "very" has been ruined. Which, oh my god,
it's the worst.
The real tragedy.
All right, moving on.
Yeah.
Are you done with your thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
We haven't talked about my thing in a long time.
No, we talked about the Korea thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just saw this today. So Rockford, Illinois. So right around the corner from us. I would maybe pump the brakes before you hear what the story is.
That seems fair.
So a server in Rockford, Illinois got stiffed on a $60 tab at a Buffalo Wild Wings. Nice. Because she had an LGBTQ tattoo. She had like the equal sign with the rainbow on it. It was actually kind of a dope looking tattoo. So she was waiting on a couple and their young children. She said two kids under 10. And she, waited on them. She said she gave perfectly good service. They were perfectly polite. And then she gets back. They ran up a $60 tab. And they didn't tip her and left a quote on the receipt saying, quote, "Can't tip someone who doesn't love Jesus!" exclamation point.
Oh my God.
Bad tattoo. And tattoo is spelled Tatoo. I wrote sick there because I'm passive aggressive when I edit. So this young woman, she's 20. And here's the fun part. Are you ready for the fun twist?
Yes, I am.
She's openly gay and a Christian.
There you go.
So they sort of swung and missed on that one. So,
Jesus.
Jesus.
Jesus Christ.
I just find that befuddling. And again, this is another one of those things that, like, aren't Christians all about being nice to
tolerance,
people? Like,
unless
isn't that
they don't
sort
want
of,
to.
It just, like, how, I guess.
Exclusion. It's just, that's so terrible. And also, like leaving a little letter. To be like, God. Not even like, come to Jesus, but like, you clearly don't believe in Jesus.
Yeah.
So screw you, and now you don't deserve a tip.
Yeah. And I will say, I waited tables throughout college and a few years after. I've gotten 2 written notes from people that were negative, and like, those are the worst kind of people.
Who is wasting time doing this?
Somebody wrote me like a letter about, because I was like slammed and they were out on the patio and I'd forgotten about them I fucked up, and I think I gave them a free round of drinks or something like that. Somebody left me like a letter about, we work really hard and this is like our time. And understand, I was in a Max and Irma's in Burridge, Illinois. Like it's not like I was working in like this is their big night, which whatever.
This is not like Alinea where you're like, I've waited 3 years for this.
I know, we had to wait to get it. Was like a Tuesday night at like 9 o'clock. But anyway, just this whole the point is, if you leave a note for your server that's anything besides thank you for everything, then you're a nightmare human.
Yeah.
So
when servers are like bad, I'm like, oh, you're only getting 18%.
That's exactly. Oh my god.
Because like you're still a human who like this is your job.
Well, and I also think there's an element of seeing like, is this and I've had bad service and I've been very aware of it. But there's also a difference between like, are you getting bad service versus is this person in the weeds and doesn't have the support they need?
Yeah, you can usually tell. Yeah, for sure. Like, oh my god, this poor person is working the whole room right now.
Yeah. But anyway, so that's shitty of those people.
Terrible.
And this woman was very well spoken about it and just said like, to her, the most bothersome part was that there were two young kids at the table and like they saw that kind of bigotry in action and that sucks. And I will give props to Buffalo Wild Wings, which, sorry guys, millennials like us, I guess, are destroying you guys. Sorry.
I feel like I'll know I'm old when people stop railing against my generation. Don't you, like I officially made it, but also I'm sad now. I'm like, oh, nobody hates me.
And now I hate young people. Oh no. Right. I actually read an interesting article about how this like millennials are killing X is a super like weirdly anti-capitalist attitude from a very pro-capitalist generation. So millennials are killing napkins or they're killing Applebee. Have you heard that? You haven't heard that one?
No, I've heard Applebee's. I've heard Buffalo Wild Wings. I've
not
heard
napkins.
Napkins
because we don't buy napkins. We use paper towels.
Oh yeah, I do that.
Yeah, I do
Fold
too.
It in half.
It's not
perfectly acceptable.
And it's the same. I mean, just again, it's the same company. Like they're probably selling more paper towels, but it's a super anti-capitalist point of view to be like, oh, millennials are destroying this thing instead of saying like, oh, this product is no more like, Applebee's is kind of garbage food. And this is coming from a person who loves chain restaurants like Chili's, Fridays, Max and Irma's. I love them unequivocally. I can't explain why. I think because I worked at a Max and Irma's for years. My husband worked at TGI Fridays. I think it's just our thing.
Oh yeah, I went to a state school, so I went to Chili's and TGI Fridays. It was like in the strip mall.
Yeah, when we were going out to a fancy dinner, we went to Texas Roadhouse.
Ooh,
yeah, we were fancy and Muncie. Anyway, but so it's like saying, oh, millennials are not supporting this instead of saying like, oh, they have a failing business model and that's how capitalism works.
Yes,
I think that's super
free
interesting.
Market.
Free market, but all things can. So that's all to say, Buffalo Wild Wings corporate actually did a good job with this. Like usually you can kind of assume they're gonna drop the ball on it, but
or fire somebody if they post it to Twitter.
Right, exactly. Yeah, they didn't do that. So Buffalo Wild corporate officials have not responded to the incident, but I guess this isn't corporate. This is her actual supervisor. Her name is Samantha Heaton. Her supervisor saw the note and immediately asked the lingering question: how can they tell that by looking at a tattoo?
Yeah. And
I think that's an
excellent
excellent
question.
Point. So I guess that was less Buffalo Wild Wings corporate and more a manager with a soul.
Well, yeah. Thank you to that.
Yeah,
for her.
So that's that. What do you got?
Christians are timestamp.
Oh, yep. Thank you.
Here we go.
I see why. Did you see? I tweeted out Hemant has like serial killer handwriting when he does this, and now I understand why. So we're at 46 minutes. We've gotten through 2 topics. Good job, us. 46:20. Yep.
Christians are more than twice as likely to blame a person's poverty on lack of effort. So this was a poll. This was a poll done by the Washington Post and Kaiser Family Foundation. The poll asked, which is generally more often to blame if a person is poor? Lack of effort on their own part or difficult circumstances beyond their control? 46% of all Christians said lack of effort generally to blame, compared to 29% of all non-Christians.
Really?
Yeah.
It
gets worse with a racial divide.
Oh, oh, really?
Yeah.
Hey, Anne, is it white people fucking it up again?
Let's get there. 53% of white evangelical Protestants blamed lack of effort, while 41% blamed circumstances. 50% of Catholics blame lack of effort. 45% blame circumstances. Just 32% of Black Christians blame lack of effort, compared to 64% who blame circumstances.
Nice work.
Yeah. And then, meanwhile,
do they have
by 2-1, Americans who are atheist, agnostic, or have no particular affiliation said circumstances are more to blame. 65% to 31%.
All right.
Yeah. So there are some. It's a great article because it doesn't just put together the stats. It puts in some reasoning for why this might be, which leads into what you were talking about the callousness of many Christians. There's a verse in Thessalonians that says, "The one who is unwilling to work shall not eat." So pretty cool. So it's
super chill Bible.
Yeah. So they have some religious scholars who talked about this, how there's been a split in Christianity since the 20th century into basically these two camps. So evangelicals and those who believe Revelations is coming, the end is near.
Yeah.
They tend to believe less in helping society, again, with things also like climate change, with helping the poor, because they're saying, like, it's all about to blow up. Yeah. It doesn't matter. So the best thing you could do is save somebody's soul. So, and if you're poor, well, that must be your fault. Post-millennialists, the pre-millennialists versus post-millennialists. Post-millennialists
Wait,
are
millennialist?
Not millennialist. Yeah,
what does that mean?
I when I put it in my Google Doc, a red line immediately popped up. So
is that just saying evangelical
premillennialists
versus
are apocalyptic?
Okay.
Post-millennialists, little cooler. So, but by refraining from helping the poor, this is a religious scholar said, quote, in their opinion, quote, they are being compassionate.
For not helping the poor?
Right.
Because
they're trying to save their soul instead.
What? But what?
Yeah. From their perspective, their compassion comes from...
Okay. Wait, I need to clarify something.
Please come to church. Yeah.
So when these fall into... when the earthquakes happened in Haiti... Mm-hmm. They were giving out Bibles instead of food.
Right.
So that would fall under that category of like, yeah, you're going to starve to death, but when you die, straight up to Hevs.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Well, that's pretty fucked up, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, sure
Hot
is.
take from Jessica.
Sure is. Pretty fucked up. Yes. So.
Like, I just don't. It's. I can't. I can't and I don't. Yeah. And I won't.
I can't and I won't.
I don't understand why. How can a human. I guess it's just. I'm sorry. This is really compelling audio for me to just fumble around. But I guess because I've never been a believer, I struggle with this sense of sureness they seem to have. Sureness is not a word. Certainty.
Yeah. There you go.
Would be what writers would use.
Oh, what? Is that you? Is that me? I don't know. Just sat here and silence.
This sense of the sense of certainty that you're right. This thing that you can't see or really physically understand. And this is obviously coming from an atheist and a skeptic who, like, I have a hard time believing something that I cannot have proven to me.
Data.
Thank you. But they're so sure that they're not only gambling their own life on it, they're willing to gamble other people's lives on it.
Right.
That this is more important. And I can't, that level of certainty I find befuddling. Don't you think?
They take it literally as gospel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I also... small anecdote. So I grew up in Skokie, which is really racially diverse, religiously diverse, wonderful place to grow up.
Like northern suburbs of Chicago.
Yeah. Yeah. Just bordering Chicago. And there's a large Jewish population since World War II. It's fascinating history. But I went to high school with this guy.
Tune into our new podcast, History of Skokie with Anne and Jess.
Listen, it's pretty good. But I went to high school and... I became friends with this guy. I found out he was evangelical. Mm-hmm. He was like in a Christian rock band, like all of this stuff. And I started looking into evangelicalism. And
like as a personal...
Yeah, I just was like Googling. I was like, this guy's my friend. Like I was raised Catholic, which is just like you just like go on
a
Sunday.
Slow march
and,
to
like,
death.
Well, but also though, like we were taught like, care for the poor, meek will inherit the earth, and all of that stuff.
Because you were raised by nice humans.
Yeah. Like, my Catholic church was, like, definitely left out Revelations. Like, didn't talk much about the First Testament. It was just, like, Jesus was cool, blonde hippie, with blue eyes, and he was here to help.
And fucking rocking abs.
Oh, my God. Birkenstock game on point. But so I looked into evangelical. I'm sorry. No, I'm glad you liked it. I got a snort out of Jessica. Okay, so I started looking into evangelism and realized that they believe if you have not been saved by Jesus Christ, you're going to hell. And I asked him, I was like, do you believe that? He was like, yeah, I do. And I was like, how come you're not trying to save every one of your friends every second of the day? Because like, I don't want you to do that. That would be super aggressive.
But from your point of view,
a lot of your friends are Jewish. A lot of your friends are Muslim. How come you're not like crying, weeping yourself to sleep every night, thinking of your best friends burning in hell?
Yeah, Penn has a similar take to that he was like, I don't blame people for like evangelizing. If you believe in your heart that like, if I don't believe what you believe, I'm going to hell, then like, of course you should try to change my mind. Of course you should. And like, if you're not, what the like that, like,
what
don't you care about my soul?
Yeah, right?
My eternal soul. Yeah. Your dog's trying to get your attention.
Sorry, Tess. Just ignore her.
She's so cute, though.
Yeah, she's real cute.
She's got like a tiny head and a big round body.
I take offense to that.
She's looking at me, wagging her tail.
She's fit.
It's true. She hated my dog so much.
She just got sick of her. Jessica's dog is a puppy, and my dog is 7. So she's like, "You're fun, but when are you going home?" Are you kidding
I was not
me?
expecting you to be here.
This girl is here after dinner. It's time to go.
Anyway.
Okay, so anyway, that's that study.
Cool. So I did the gay server thing. Oh, okay. So this is something I got. Usually Hemant does all this research.
Yes. I do like, I'm just like, Jessica's reaction hour on A Friendly Atheist this week.
It really, actually, Anne yesterday sent me all these stories. Like, should I do this? I'm like, no, you can't tell me beforehand because, like, literally all I do is react. Like, that's just sort of what I bring to the table is being loud. And I bring that up to say that Hemant gets a lot of his stuff off of his own blog. Like, and so I cheated and I just went on friendlyatheist.com.
It's great.
Like, thanks Hemant for doing the work for me.
That's okay. I just Googled like religion and 150,000 things came up.
It's easier than you think. Yeah. I actually usually, if I'm looking for stories, I can just scroll through my own Facebook and like, I've just kind of acquired this like
that makes sense,
feed that just sort of leans into what I'm doing. So there is a private Christian school near Nashville, Tennessee called Brentwood Academy. And a family recently filed a claim that their 12-year-old son was orally and anally raped by a group of older boys in addition to other acts of sexual assault.
That's horrible.
So the parents are suing the school. So
that's horrible.
Yeah, it's awful. So there's two sides. Threw my pen.
Just whipped it.
I was just mad. So there's two sides of this story. According to the parents and the son, and then the boy who, was assaulted, he told the headmaster, whose name is Curtis G. Masters, which sounds like a villain.
Dickens novel. Here we go.
It's so on the nose, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
This isn't a funny story. I just need to laugh to
That's okay.
keep from crying. So apparently, allegedly, what the boy told his parents was that he told the headmaster Masters. God damn.
Go on.
This isn't funny, but his name is Headmaster Masters.
It's a little much.
This isn't funny. Okay, so he told his headmaster and the boy said the headmaster's response was, quote, "Everything in God's kingdom happens for a reason," and that the boy, quote, "should turn the other cheek."
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck that.
He also said that one of the accused boys did get an in-school suspension.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So he sat in study hall for 8 hours.
Yeah. Is that how long it is now?
I don't know.
I got suspended once.
I think like in class.
It was senior ditch day, and
they really like brought out the yardstick for that one.
Yeah, I'm such a rebel, and I didn't even do anything. I just stayed home. I didn't have a lot of friends in high school.
It's okay, Jess.
I know. So the parents are bringing this lawsuit, and according to the headmaster, he said that at no point did he. Or this is the quote, "At no point before or during the investigation in 2015 did I or anyone on our staff, to my knowledge, hear any allegation of rape," he said in a statement.
So he didn't come forward the next day, so it can't be true?
Well, I mean, he just said that at no point were the words rape used, or were allegations of rape. So
okay.
if I were to like take a wild swing, I would say that the boy didn't have the language to explain what happened to him. 12?
Oh.
Well, he's 12. I don't know if he's 12 now or who's 12 in 2015. I assume he's 12 now.
Yeah.
So that made him 10 in 2015, which
my God,
I have a 10-year-old nephew. Like, that's not a thing I would expect that he would have the language to to communicate, especially to an authority figure who wasn't being especially
I'm sure
receptive.
He was not asking gentle questions.
Right. Yeah. So what the headmaster said is when we heard of inappropriate activity, we responded immediately and thoroughly, cooperated fully with the authorities, and took the appropriate disciplinary action based on what we knew. Certain allegations in the lawsuit and highlighted in the media are not factual, will be disputed, and our defense will be vigorous.
Yeah, nothing like coming down on the side of rapists. That's good.
That's the thing.
Why is that consistent?
Okay, here's what... This idea that a young boy would... And it's not unheard of, right? Like, things like this have happened.
Yes.
But the idea of not giving the benefit of the doubt to a young boy who said he was sexually assaulted is unconscionable, right? Like...
Absolutely.
And... I just...
Right, because, 10-year-olds lie about...
brushing their teeth.
Right, about brushing their teeth. Or like, no, I wasn't the one that broke the window. But this is like where...
You guys, Anne grew up in the 1930s.
No, I grew up...
She was playing stickball.
I grew up as one of 5 kids, which meant there was a lot of broken shit all the time. No, but like you were saying, this kid probably didn't even have the vocabulary to talk about this. And why would he make this up?
And yes, you're exactly right. And I think on the other, obviously this kid, if what he's saying is true, and I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Absolutely,
obviously we don't have the facts in front of us, but if what he's saying is true, not only does this kid need help, he needs to get into counseling, he needs to deal with what happened to him, but, and I would say just as importantly, if older kids sexually assaulted a younger kid in school, then we need to make sure those kids are being like looked into.
Yes.
And not know like,
because they're still surrounded by potential victims.
Exactly. And I'm not like they need to be punished for what they did. Obviously I think there needs to be punishment, but more importantly, when you again, to go back to our true crime thing, when you hear about mass murderers, serial killers, things like that, you see all these red flags throughout their childhood, right? Like,
yes,
like the McDonald triad. So the bedwetting, arson, and cruelty to animals.
Right.
You see all these red flags. In hindsight, it's so easy to be like, oh, well, he did this, that, and the other, and like look at all these warning signs. But when you have something
rape
like...
at 13, 14?
Even
I mean,
16,
ever,
17.
But, right.
Rape of a... Not just rape, but rape, like... a gang rape of a young boy.
It's horrifying.
It's horrifying. And kids who participated in that, we need to make sure they're not going to be repeat offenders and be set out in the world. And I don't know. It's just...
No, but meanwhile, the response is forgive. Turn the other cheek.
And
like,
we don't want to ruin these boys' lives.
Oh, right.
That's one that really kills me.
Always.
Oh, we don't want to ruin their lives. Like, oh man, nobody cares about women's lives. No. Nobody cares about the victims'
or children
lives
as well. It's amazing to see how children are disregarded constantly.
Exactly. And these things have repercussions that echo throughout their entire lives. And it's always really incredible to me that people are so concerned that and it's consistently accused rapists, right? It's always accused rapists that were ruining their life. Whereas if somebody, like, I don't feel like I remember a huge outcry when OJ was found not guilty, which, I mean, I don't believe he was not guilty, but like nobody was like, I can't believe they put him through a whole trial, it ruined his whole life. Like, if you're a thief, if you're
yes,
if you do anything that's not rape, if you assault somebody and you're found not guilty, nobody's like, well, you just dragged this man's name through the mud, and how can he whatever?
How could he possibly recover?
Yeah. So it's funny. So they recognize that rape is a really horrible offense to be committed, but their reaction to that is, if you get accused of it wrongly, it's going to ruin your life. That's worse. Which, like, fuck off.
Yeah.
Like, stop that. Stop doing that. That's awful.
Cut it out. It's absolutely terrible. Yeah. And it's just, you just see it over and over and over again.
Yeah. And it's like,
why didn't you stop it? Why didn't you tell people? What
were you wearing? What were you drinking? Were you walking alone at night?
It's like, what are you wearing? What were you wearing has become a cliche, and yet it just is constant.
Oh my God, constant.
But by the way, the serial killers and mass shooters, one of the things that when you look in their background, especially for mass shooters, is domestic violence.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a history of domestic violence.
Well, I know the one of the first mass shooters, what was his name? It was in Austin, Texas, at the clock tower. It was in the 60s.
Yeah.
There was, do you ever watch, you must remember, A Crime to Remember?
Mm-mm.
Oh, it's an excellent true crime show, and it's about, like, shows. Are you writing it down?
My computer fell asleep. That's all.
Crimes that took place largely in the 50s and 60s, and just sort of that had impacts beyond that. So that was an incredible episode.
I'll look into that.
Because the newscaster. So this is the first time a mass shooting like this happened in a time that there was national news. And the newscaster, I think it was the Austin newscaster, was reading it and read his own grandson's name as one of the victims.
Oh my God!
Yeah, it is devastating. It's devastating. Why did I bring that up?
I don't know.
Is it just because I talked
about
true crime
mass shooters,
too much?
I don't know.
No, but he had a history. He seemed on the surface a very, like, he was a military man. He did this and that and the other, and like you just part the kimono a little bit and like, oh, no, he was a monster at home. But
that
at that
count.
time, exactly, it doesn't count. God.
And it still doesn't really.
Which I think it's interesting that people think that, how long have we been going?
An hour.
A year and a half? Oh, yeah, no, we're fine. I think it's interesting when people talk about domestic violence versus, like, oh, you got in a bar fight. And it seems to me like people tend to think, oh, you got in a fight in public, and it's
the public thing, right? It's like, oh, you're out of control.
Whereas I think the fact that you can, like, be violent against somebody you allegedly love, certainly are close to emotionally, right? Like, if you live with them, no matter what, you're going to have a connection to them. I think that, so I was watching, or I read an article that was like ranking crimes or something like ranking like how quote unquote evil something is, which I think evil is a really interesting word that I love to talk about because it feels like this weird catch-all and also kind of an excuse. Like, this guy did all these things because he was just evil. Like, okay.
Very black and white.
Yes. Thank you.
It's easy to categorize.
Yeah. And this whoever did this put Jeffrey Dahmer as like the most evil person. Like, the crimes he committed were the most evil, which, I mean,
pretty heinous.
No, and then listen, I am not here to defend Jeffrey Dahmer. And so, if you don't know much about him, he lived in Milwaukee, was gay, would go to gay bars, bring men home, and then end up murdering them. But he would get blackout drunk to do it, and then he did horrible things with their body, stored them. They're
horrible.
Oh my God! Like,
store them in the refrigerator.
Oh my God! Like, truly nightmarish. Truly nightmarish. And I'm not here to defend him, but to me, like, that man, Jeffrey Dahmer, was a deeply mentally ill man. And if you see any interviews with him while he was in jail, like,
yeah,
he was ill, and he seemed kind of repulsed by his own behaviors. And the fact that he needed to get blackout drunk before he could do any of this sort of spoke to, like, his personal shit. Like, he just he was afraid of abandonment and needed a corpse because that wouldn't abandon. Like, that was his sort of thing.
So horrifying.
It's so horrifying. God, I'm so sorry, you guys. But all of this is to say that, to me, murdering your spouse is infinitely more horrifying.
It's so personal.
It's so personal. And obviously, like, it's not fair to rank murder. Like, that's garbage.
That's crazy.
But this particular site was like, oh, Jeffrey Dahmer is the epitome of evil. And I'm like, no, I think he's the epitome of, like, a deeply mentally ill man who did horrible things, But to me, I find it much more scary that like somebody can kill their own children.
Yes.
I think that's much more evil. If we're going to use evil, it's like a ranking of whatever.
Well, it's like, how long were you hiding this?
Yeah. Or, God, people
thoughts?
who murdered their kids and then just like hung out in the house for...
Yeah.
To me, that is
it's just so disturbing.
So disturbing. Yeah. Anyway.
Okay.
Man, guys, this is not a traditional episode.
Is this me? Oh, you just went.
Yeah, no, I did the rape thing. You know, the rape thing. She says nonchalantly.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm just gonna give up. I'm gonna have to re-listen to this.
So, this title, wow. It was great.
Okay.
Confessions of a former IT church pastor. We were the hottest church in our area. Then everything imploded.
That was a roller coaster of a title.
I know. Okay, so it's on Christianity Today. Is there something wrong with that?
No, it's just it's you can hear it in your cans and not. Hopefully, people can't hear it.
So what a title! Gripped me the whole way through.
It really was a roller coaster, which you don't expect from headlines. You really expect a headline to be pretty straightforward, right? Like this is the thing that happened instead of.
Everything imploded.
Okay. I love this.
So this is a pastor of an evangelical church. He wrote this anonymously.
So brave.
Yeah. Sorry. Well, it's like kind of embarrassing what happened. So
do we know where?
Where
is it like a mega church or just?
It was an attendance of like.
Is it Joel Osteen?
God, I hope so. I hope so.
So I'm like really self-obsessed, and I'm always not always, like once a month I'll look in the iTunes charts to see like where this podcast is ranking, and usually we're like 140th, and because we're in like the religion and spirituality thing, and fucking Joel Osteen is always snapping up that #1 spot.
Oh my God. If there's an antichrist, it's him.
His face though. Like, I don't like to criticize people for how they look, but his face gives me the heebie-jeebies.
Well, it's, that, like, smile that doesn't reach his eyes.
That's exactly what it is.
Looks straight in the camera, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so this guy, no location. He's really trying to stay private here. So they were the IT church. They did lots of great things. Attendance was up, thousands of people. And then... this couple joins. And they start hosting like Bible study stuff and like group gatherings. But without the church's approval. But he's like, you know what? It's fine. He just didn't ask. It's really not a big deal. More and more people start going to this guy's like subgroup. This guy, the subgroup guy, accused the pastor writer of running a cult.
Ooh.
But this guy, he started a subcult. What? I know. I was delighted the whole way through. This is a great article. It's on Christianity Today. When he would like... So this subcult guy who he named Gordon, not his real name.
Sorry.
No, there's something just like fabulous about Gordon.
I just snorted so loudly.
Okay. Quote, he placed question marks around my effectiveness as a pastor, calling us a cult and editing emails I'd sent him to make it appear as if I said things I hadn't.
The nerve!
He claimed I was being insecure and controlling. Basically every time, it reminded me of our Führer in chief here about like, I know you are, but what am I? Every time the pastor was like, basically everything he said, Gordon's response was that he was being insecure. You're so insecure. Like, I'm not trying to steal people. It's fine. I'm not trying to steal people. So the bigger subcults following.
Watch a drama about a mega church if this was what the plots were like.
I know.
Because it's all about like who's the most right about Jesus.
Right.
It's not
whose is this? These people are insecure. I came to dread that phrase in the months that followed.
Oh, God.
God. So he talked to more people. Those people are insecure. Finally, after 13 months
As if insecurity is like the worst thing you could have in your life.
Right. Finally, after 13 months of confrontation, Gordon and his family stopped attending our services. Only they didn't really leave.
edge of
they
my
were
seat.
gathering like another following. On Facebook, Gordon tagged all the people who attended with him each week. People, like, it was very, like, super petty. Like, he was starting this. So this is so dumb. Attendance just starts to drop because also my interpretation of this is like, I would bet that people started showing up and they were like, oh my God, pastor whatever is like becoming paranoid. Like,
yes.
I mean, he doesn't really like fess up to some of that. He does actually say like, maybe I was doing things wrong and like whatever, and I should have been doing this instead.
Yeah.
But it's just like, if you feel like somebody's stealing all your followers and you're like, where the fuck is Rick? Where's Joanne? They're not here this week. And like, I would bet
like,
that he started like sweating, like walking around, like
all of a sudden all his sermons are about Judas.
Yes, and the importance of like loyalty.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So
40 pieces of
and this is where I'm like, I feel like this guy needs to do some more self-examination. Friends began to distance themselves from me and the chaos I was caught up in.
Oh no.
That hurt. Yeah. People unfriended his wife on Facebook. Like, people became irregular pop-ins. I know. I mean, like, and then he refers to it as an exodus, obviously. And then there were like a new church popped up down the street, and they became the it church. I know. I would bet Gordon had something to do with it.
Classic Gordon, am I right?
It's like the Koch brothers of like new church. Putting in place his own religion. So. Yeah, so he starts to lose this, and there's a new it church, which again, as like somebody who was raised Catholic, this is so funny to me. Like, Catholicism is just that? Like, no, never. Like, what it church? Like, you went there, you were bored, you like, you know.
Well, it was the one closest to you.
It was 4 blocks away.
Yeah.
So that's where we went. And you just kind of stuck there unless something like really weird happened. I mean, even then, I'll just cover that up. But, you know, it's like, oh my God, evangelicals are so different. Like, looking for like energy and spirit and like whatever. I'm like, oh, when I watch mega churches, like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, Catholics like sit there and like,
you like suffer
flip through. I used to read along with like the Gospels just to give myself something to do.
To like engage yourself?
Yeah.
I do that at Catholic weddings though.
Right.
I'll just flip through the Bible.
Absolutely. Because it's just like, it's another way to be like, okay, like I can get through this hour. So this guy loses his followers.
Sure.
And started to hear, it was at this low point that I heard the Lord begin a sentence. It started with the word change. But I didn't know what came after that.
You know what's really good?
What?
When somebody who is going through some really serious issues starts hearing voices. That's the beginning of a storybook ending.
Reassuring. Change the church, change me, change someone's minds, change jobs. I couldn't figure out.
Change what,
so I
God?
gave trying.
Hey, God, be specific.
Yeah.
God.
So, they'll be moving there this year. 30 of our members came together to determine the next step of our church to leave. And to leave the building. Like the leaders of the church.
Shit.
Yeah.
This poor man.
I know, you feel sorry for him because it really does feel like somebody like came in, usurped his power.
I'm sorry, are we being dive bombed?
Yeah, I mean, maybe.
I don't know if you guys can hear that, but it sounds like a plane is flying directly over this 2 flat in Logan Square.
Here we are.
Are we in Logan Square?
The rapture begins, yes. So, he finally...
The rapture begins with a 747 flying a little too close to us.
That's like what Scientologists believe, so whatever. So, he finally figures out...
Yeah.
The Lord finished the sentence. Change has happened. You have to let me change you and use you to bring change. Now I want to change something for you. I guess losing his power and his church.
Wait. He went from one word change.
Change, yeah.
To like a paragraph.
Like change has already happened. You missed it and you gotta go.
Change.
My time of leadership with this church is over.
Changes.
God has opened up something new.
I could have gone with Changes by David Bowie.
I liked it.
I'm doing my best here. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
God has opened up something new for me to do next, and everything that came before prepared me for it. And then it ends with this like really sad couple of lines.
Wait, what's he doing next?
Well, exactly. I don't totally know. I think he's still with his church because like,
oh, honey.
Well, he's like kind of on the outs. Do I want to stay with this church and lead what's next? Sometimes. Starting off strong. Do I want to pastor the, quote, it church down the street? Sometimes. Do I want to be smack dab in the center of God's will? Whatever it is, always.
Uh-huh.
Once upon a time, the church I pastor was the it church of our area. Now it's not. But the church is still alive and carrying out its mission elsewhere and in a different way. I await my next assignment while living out my faith in the meantime.
Oh, buddy.
Like, oh my God, this guy's getting like a lot of bathrobe time.
Oh, oh no. Oh, this poor man.
I feel bad for him, right? Because it really does feel like somebody just like undercut him.
Yeah.
Goddamn Gordon.
Fucking Gordon. Every time
and
Gordon.
Ruined it all.
I think about this a lot because, you know, I'm going through my own shit right now. I've lost my job, money's tight, all that stuff. And I feel like if on top of that, I had the feeling of I'm being pushed through this because I did something wrong or because God is trying to do something.
Everything happens. Yeah. It's all God's will.
Yeah. I can't imagine how I would feel because like right now I feel pretty much like garbage most of the time.
I know that feeling.
No, but like job hunting fucking
hard.
sucks.
It's really hard.
But I at least can be like, well, I don't know if this is better, but I'm like, I'm not bringing enough to the table or I'm not, my resume
or
is
just
whatever.
like, hey, it's a low point. People have them and like, you know, you're going to come out of it.
Right.
You're going to get a job.
Right.
Like this is not permanent, but also to be like, God, this is God's will.
I mean, the everything happens for a reason thing. God, that has to be fucking hard, right? Like,
yeah. Like, does it, because that applies to death. That applies to illness. It applies to losing a job. I mean, that's like, what a cruel creator.
Yeah. And it's
personally, it's like very,
that's the
first
thing is,
testament.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing if you very truly believe that like Jesus is like dictating your every move and everything that happens around you is the result of like almost a corporeal person like pulling the strings for lack of a better term.
Everybody.
And so like, okay, I've been out of work for however long and I didn't have a chance to save up money before I lost my job. And like, does that mean I did something to deserve that? Or
is it just like, it's all set out? So like, why don't people give up? I mean, it's like kind of impressive to be like,
well,
God. I have to keep going. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's what that is.
Jesus, take the wheel. But how? Right. So this poor guy is like, it's okay. This is what was supposed to happen. You're like, but really? I don't know. It kind of sounds like human pettiness and bitterness got in the way of what you were doing, which may have been decent. And then you got probably paranoid and probably started talking about Judas a lot. And
I swear to God, that's what he did.
Like his friends are leaving. It's very like excommunication, but without officially doing it. So it just feels like you're like, oh my God, all my friends are leaving me. I'm just still here and literally attached to this building because this is where I have to be.
It's sad.
Find a way to pay the rent too. Like that's a real thing. You have to have churches, of course, that's tithing and everything. Like you have to have a way to prosper. It's a business, and whether it's it's a non-profit or a for-profit, like Joel Osteen, but like this guy's screwed. And I hope, like, you're like, I hope he's fine. But like it's a really earnest post and you do feel bad for him, but it's also like, wow, just like reading this the whole way through. Cause it's like gossipy too.
Yeah. I mean, I think like I've never been a particular fucking Gordon religious person, but I feel like the gossip in like churches has to be outstanding.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, because sins are like, they're sins. It's not just like they're divorcing. It's like they've failed God.
Was above her. Yeah. She's a sinner.
Yeah. So that's that one.
Okay. I've got 1.5 more.
Okay.
We're at an hour 21. So we'll see how much we cut out, because right now we're at an hour 21 of talking. We'll see how much I go back in and like.
Please go for it.
I probably won't. I don't know how to do it.
It did take Jessica 40 minutes to set up.
Okay.
And I sat on the couch just like watching her get deeper and deeper into stress. I was like, why are you stressing out?
Hard.
It's just like an afternoon. This is
well, because all this recording equipment is Hemant's, and usually he has like a computer, a laptop that he sends to me, and it's GarageBand, and it's just like, it's almost like a blank formatted thing of like, here's all of the audio settings, because we've got, I mean,
he's like busy having a child, so
oh my God, I texted him and everything.
Yeah, Jessica texted him.
I felt like shit about it.
Okay. No, you can cut this out. It's fine.
No, it's fine. They need to know how bad a person I am. I'm doing my best.
Godless sinner.
Okay. So there is a thing. Good start.
Let's start.
Called the California Healthy Youth Act. Have you heard of this?
No.
So it went into effect last year, so 2016, and made it mandatory for public junior high or middle schools in California to teach students, quote, comprehensive, accurate, and unbiased sex education.
That sounds good.
That also includes lessons on the effectiveness and safety of birth control, the fact that abortion is a legal option for those who want it, and that there are non-traditional sexual orientations.
Nice.
Right.
That sounds good.
California.
Is that where the story ends?
Yep, that's the end of the story.
California.
Hey, thank you for tuning in to the Friendly Atheist podcast. So there is a gentleman.
Okay.
As there always is. He's the president of the school board of the Fresno Unified School or something. I didn't write down the full name of the school because
It's fine.
not good at this. What was that?
I think my sister's coming home.
Oh.
That's, by the way, the gate outside and like at least 20 feet behind the back door. So that's very strange.
It
but
definitely is serial killer-esque. Yeah. Okay, so his name is Brooke Ashjian. Ashjian.
Okay.
Ashjian. So his kids opt out of sex education, so it's an opt-out thing, which I still think is fucking garbage.
Yeah.
So guess what, Anne? He's super reasonable and said nothing offensive. So thank you for joining us for the Friendly Atheist podcast.
I guess he's opposed to it.
My biggest fear in teaching this, which we're going to do because it's the law, so this is general sex ed. But you have kids who are extremely moldable at this stage in junior high. And if you start telling them that LGBT is okay and that it's a way of life, well, maybe you just swayed the kid to go that way.
Sexuality is a choice. That
it's so important for parents to teach these Judeo-Christian philosophies.
Is it? Are you sure?
Which I think that's a thing I see time and time again that I'm kind of baffled by, is this sort of idea of if your kid or a human is aware of a thing, then it's going... Like, that you have to keep somebody in, like, a vacuum to make sure they're not tarnished by the outside world. And I think that's really interesting, because I would think if I were a believer of any... So as an atheist... if I had kids, I would never be like, you can't hear about Christianity, or you can't hear about, like, something horrible. Like, you can't hear about the Holocaust because that may give you the idea.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
That's the thing I don't necessarily understand, of if the foundations that you set up for your kid are as strong as you are pretending that they are. Mm-hmm. Why isn't that enough? And they can go out in the world and be like, oh, I see that abortion is a thing and I'm choosing not. Or I see that homosexuality is a thing and I'm making my choice. Don't you think that seems like counterintuitive to what their whole thing is?
And also just strong parenting. I mean, like, what are you going to... You're going to send a child into the world just being like, there's no such thing as gay people?
Right. Like, you still have to interact with the world in some regard, right?
Yes.
So anyway, that guy's really chill. He also...
Is he suing?
No.
Not yet.
He just has opinions that he needs to share with the world.
Of course.
Hey, Anne, guess what? He also has thoughts on abortion.
Oh.
Okay. All
right.
So you tell me when you hit peak rage, okay?
Yeah.
Can you just give me, like, a gauge?
Yeah.
All right.
I'll give you a hand signal.
Yeah, this is great for podcasting.
Okay. Go on. God
damn it!
That was self-induced, too.
So much a narcissist I am. I can make myself snort. Okay. There's certainly a lot of psychological effects that come from abortion that people need to be aware of.
Relief, joy, etc.
Your life is a lot easier by not doing it.
Okay. Yeah, that child will tell you that every day.
Look at these poor girls who get raped and have to have an abortion. If that's the way they've got to go, God bless them. But think of all the repercussions that come later in life, mental and psychological.
Yep, that's peak rage.
Yeah, is it?
There it is.
Did I find it?
Oh, fuck you.
Yeah. Do you want some wine?
Yeah, right? I'd prefer a shot. That's the real tragedy that survivors of rape have to abort a fetus.
Oh my
that's
God.
really,
That's
that's the biggest problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so nonsensical and shows a total misunderstanding of, first of all, how common rape is.
Mm-hmm.
And the effects of rape, not the effects of an abortion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I think that's a fair thing to say. I also do want to point out that he says that the repercussions are both mental and psychological.
Yeah, I think that's very true of a rape, not
but
of
also
abortion.
Those two different things, your mental and psychological health, two very different things. Thank you for distinguishing between those two things.
Well, it's very scientific.
So he's a monster, I guess.
It's
you know what, Anne? You know what the problem is with the world? I haven't heard enough dudes' opinions on abortion.
Yeah, I just feel like they're like the silent majority in this.
Guys, write in friendlyatheistpodcast@gmail.
Yeah.
I want to hear.
Tell me your thoughts on abortion. These guys. Oh, that's the dog sprinting to my sister
and sister's home.
I it's like every time I see one of these things, I just am struck. Like, how do you think this?
Well, and the interesting thing is,
are you not also looking at any statistics?
No,
of like,
Anne, facts are of the devil, and that.
The overwhelming majority of women who have had abortions do not regret their decision.
And the overwhelming majority are Christian.
Are they? Well, the
like
country's like 80%.
Well, I mean, it definitely lines up with.
Yeah,
well, I mean, it lines
just
up
like
with
because you're a woman, you're like, I'm not going to do this.
Well, have you
First
heard?
of all, a lot of times it's I can't, and other times it's just like I don't fucking want to.
Well,
abortion on demand.
One
That's
of
what I want.
One of my favorite expressions is the only moral abortion is my abortion.
Yeah.
Because you hear, okay, I have a firsthand account. So I've never had an abortion, but I have been 3 different people's like point person when they thought they were pregnant. I don't know why.
Oh yeah, no, well, because it happens a lot.
Well, yeah. But this one particular time I was at work and she came up to me and she was like, I missed my period. This is what happened. And literally so I walked her to like a pharmacy nearby to get a pregnancy test. And literally on the way, she was like, oh, like I'm pro-life. I don't really believe in abortions, blah, 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 blah. She also told me that their birth control method was that she peed after sex. So, what? And that was my moment.
Oh my God.
I'm sure you've dealt with pregnancy scares, but it's always like, it's fine. Don't worry. Your period's just late or whatever.
Yeah, you should definitely reassure the person. And then,
yeah. And as soon as she said that, I was like, oh, you're super pregnant. Like,
oh, you're for sure knocked up.
Yeah,
you
pregnant.
You did it.
But she found out, got the pregnancy test. It was positive. We took it at a Starbucks bathroom.
Oh, yeah.
As all the classy people do, and literally just walked her right to the nearest Planned Parenthood and made an appointment for her. Like, and so it was.
That's great, though.
Within a 15-minute scope, she went from being like, only irresponsible people get pregnant to,
I'm one of them, and I don't want this.
Yeah.
But that's what's so great about being pro-choice. It's just you have the choice to do it. And if she had said, no, I'm pro-life and I'm going to do it no matter what, then you would have said, okay.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. Well, and when she was telling me later, like, I couldn't go into the room with her. I was sitting in the waiting room with all, like, the nervous 18-year-old boys.
Yeah.
And she said that she was talking to the nurse and, they confirmed that she was pregnant. And she said, is this what you want to do? And, oh my God, I almost said her name. And she started crying. And the nurse was very much like, are you sure this is what you want to be doing? Because she didn't want to be responsible for, like,
absolutely.
So to pretend that like a Planned Parenthood is like this abortion factory.
No,
it's a thing that they take seriously. And I don't know, like I've talked about my own sexual assault on this show, and this show is so dumb. It's a podcast. It's dumb.
No, it's not.
And I think this sort of callousness that so many men have about what the effects of sexual assault are, and to pretend that abortion is somehow worse than being raped it's so infuriating.
Yes.
It's so infuriating.
Well, because it also assumes that they know better than you.
And that's what it all comes down to, right? Of when we make legislation against, like, that's pro-life, that's anti-choice, what it's saying is we don't believe you can make the right decision for you. So we need to put laws or at the very least these like barriers in place. So at every fucking turn you had to be like, are you sure? Yeah, look at here's a cluster of cells. Are you still sure? Like, yeah, you've just been raped, but we're gonna go ahead and shove a wand up your vagina. Like,
are you sure?
Are you still sure? I just, it's this weird thing of like, do you care about people or do you not? If you say you're pro-life and you sincerely care about children and women, then you would be working with a woman to get the help that she needs.
Yes.
And, like, obviously, this is worst case scenario.
Where's the childcare? Where's birth control?
That's exactly what I'm always saying. I don't understand how you can be pro-life and anti, like... That's why I think Christian Republicans are garbage humans. Because you cannot pretend to be pro-life, but if somebody has a baby, be like, it's your responsibility to, like, provide for it and work full-time and. I mean, it's just garbage. It's a garbage opinion to have. So
hold on a second. So this reminded me of this Onion article from forever ago that I revisit sometimes. And it's like point, counterpoint. U.S. needs to get out of my uterus versus we must deploy troops to Jessica London's uterus immediately.
Oh my god.
And it's, you know, like a fake one, of course, like essay about that, and then a general William Patterson, U.S. Army, we must send troops immediately. Like, yeah, it's just like, get the fuck out, get out of here.
Just let me make my decisions for me.
Sounds good.
Well, and that's because all the arguments I hear that are anti-choice are, oh, the fetus is a human and it deserves all the rights therein. But I don't understand why you're so worried about the life of a quote unquote baby, which it's a fetus. It's fetus. Most abortions are on non-viable fetuses. All of that stuff. But as soon as like there's humans who are saying, I'm sick, I'm dying, I don't have health care, I can't afford a house, I can't afford. Well, why'd you move to Detroit if you didn't want like blood in your water? That seems like you're bad.
Right.
I that's the thing I can never reconcile. I will never be able to reconcile that. I don't think.
Stark hypocrisy.
It really is. But they must have an internal justification of it, right?
I don't know.
They must.
Right, there must be. You know what? I should look that up. Like, what is the argument? Because it eludes me completely.
No, it does. And I think a problem is based in the Bible. If you're going to like base your moral fibers in the Bible, there's so much in it that you can pluck any, like we talked about earlier, that like there is if
you don't work, you don't deserve to eat,
right? But there's the Sermon on the Mount which is a much larger speech,
right? That's one verse versus a long speech,
one verses
exactly versus the Son of God, talking like in a very significant speech. Like, which one are you weighing? Whichever one you want to use that day, basically.
Oh, Hemant was napping. He's up now. Let me know so I assume the kid everything is okay. Congrats, Hemant. Little baby Tanner. He won't.
That's made up. She doesn't know.
I just want to name him Tanner. It's fine. Like, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
It's fine.
So I have one more. So this is my. I'm so excited for this. This is my. Do you have any other?
No.
Okay. I have a prompt.
Okay.
And literally what I wrote is, do we want to talk about pro-life Democrats?
God. Do we?
I don't know.
I don't even know.
I feel like we've said what we need to say vis-a-vis.
We just cut this part out.
I mean, it's fine.
Because it's just like, oh my God.
No, and I think it's interesting when we talk about like the litmus test of should we support pro-life.
Do you listen to Pod Save America?
I don't. Should I?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say so. Yeah, they're guys from the Obama administration. They started Crooked Media, and so there are lots of other podcasts associated with them. But just this morning, I listened to a podcast about that, and they had I don't want to say the head of, maybe it was, of NARAL, the Abortion Rights Action League, possibly. But she was talking about this. So I actually recommend go listen to that because she knows what she's talking about. But it was kind of a lot of waffling. It was like, we shouldn't really pay attention to them. Like, this litmus test. And actually the host, Jon Favreau, was pushing back and saying, like,
not the director.
But why? Not the director. But they were pushing back and saying, like, but yeah, you know, the litmus test now has become like, why are you singling out abortion? Like, why aren't we making this about gun rights? Why aren't we making this about the litmus test is single payer? So, like, of course it's abortion, though. Of course it is.
Yeah, and I've talked about this on the show before. The fact that, like, homosexuality and abortion are, like, the two tent poles, it seems, of many, many religious conservative people. And for the life of me, I cannot understand why those are the hills that they're willing to die on. I've got
morality.
Yeah, but no, that's fucking garbage. Like, a moral person would say, hey, there are starving people and we should make sure they can eat.
I prefer that. I believe in that. Yes.
Yeah. So when we talk about morality,
nobody should be starving in the wealthiest country on earth.
Oh my God, I remember the first
absurd.
The first time I, like, got drunk and yelled at my dad about politics, which now happens.
It's really a coming of age story.
I remember getting drunk and yelling at my dad, are we a country? And I was, God, maybe 19.
Yeah, that's about the age, yeah.
Yep. Are we going to be...
1 year into college.
So I know shit now. Are we going to be a country that cares for the least fortunate among us, or aren't we?
I guess not.
Which I feel like I probably cribbed that off something that Colbert said regarding Christianity. But I yelled it really impassionedly on my 19-year-old wine drunk. I didn't drink. Guys, don't drink underage.
No, it's fine.
It's bad.
That actually, there was a Huffington Post piece a couple months ago that was titled something along the lines of, like, I don't know how to tell you that you should care about other people.
That got a lot of traction. I definitely shared that.
That was great, and it summed up. I was like, this is how I feel.
It really
is. How am I supposed to tell you that, like, you should care for poor children?
Yeah, I mean,
children, people who are starving in this country, people who are dying, bankrupting themselves because they got sick.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to tell you that you're supposed to care?
Shortly after the election happened, so for like 2 months after the election, my form of self-care tended to be me arguing with strangers on the internet, which my therapist did not approve of.
Shocking.
I know. But it was just this. And so for me, it was less about, like, trying to make this person right. And it was more, or change this person's mind, I mean. And more about, like, sincerely, like, how can you be a human in the world and think this? So my favorite one, I feel like I might have dragged you into this in some, and you very frequently comes to my rescue.
Yes, but also I like pick and choose. I'm like, you're like somebody needs to stand up to this guy. I was like, I agree. You're like, well, you could do it. I'm like, I can't, Jess. It's like 10:30 at night, and I just, like, am not up for it.
I'm on my 6th episode of Game of Thrones. And come wait in.
Come rescue me on Twitter. Like, you got to call on somebody else.
I'm the worst friend.
No, it's great because also I can say no, and you're like, fine, that's fine.
Fine, I'll talk.
Don't worry about it.
I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, it's fine.
God, I'm such a nightmare to be friends with. Okay, so but one of the ones I got into was talking about illegal immigration, and all this garbage. And so I'm arguing with this. It's like a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend. Like, it was
right.
It was like somehow on my feed, but I'm the worst. And so this guy was basically saying things like illegals or whatever. And I said something to the effect, and background is my older brother is a teacher on the southwest side of Chicago, and he has multiple undocumented students in his class. Mm-hmm. One of whom she's been in his homeroom for 4 years now. I think she's a senior, and she is just the best, just wonderful and charming and bright and just a fucking joy. I cannot say enough nice things about this girl. She's an undocumented student. And I said to this guy at one point, basically do you want to walk into my brother's classroom and say to these 8 kids, because your parents made a decision, you have to, and you were either born here or came here at a very young age, you have to go back to a place that you've never had a home in, that you don't know the it's not like sending them back, it's sending them away. Yes. And he was like, 100% I would.
Oh my God.
And
I would love it.
And the funny thing is, address? The way I wrote it, he thought I meant that my brother was an undocumented student. So he kept threatening to like send my brother, quote unquote, home.
He's going to call ICE on your brother, by the way?
I don't know. I'm third generation American, I think. I think my most recent immigrants were my grandparents, my mother's parents were both born in Italy and came here at like age of 2.
Right.
So I don't have another, but it was just, and it was funny, and it was also scary. Like, it was funny because, like, he got it so wrong, but it was scary because, like, he was willing to just, like, fucking throw the towel in for anybody who, and it just...
children, like, these are children.
And they're children.
But that's the same argument for poverty, which is that your parents did this. And you're like, yeah, but I was just born into it. Well, your parents shouldn't have made those choices.
I mean, again, this is, I feel like a thing I've probably talked about before, but those things, like, you shouldn't have had kids if you weren't ready. You keep backing up the argument, like, okay, you shouldn't have had a kid if you couldn't afford it. Okay, well, I got pregnant, but I couldn't have an abortion.
Right. You're not giving me any options.
Well, you shouldn't have gotten pregnant. Well,
you shouldn't have had sex. Like, really?
Well, no, I mean, you should have used birth control. Well, you don't give me access to birth control. Oh, well, you shouldn't have had sex. Okay, well, I'm, in my 20s in a monogamous relationship. Explain, like, it comes down to don't have sex. That's really what it comes down to, which I find fucking befuddling.
Well, it's completely hypocritical again.
So hypocritical.
It's just right there every time, staring you in the face. It's hypocrisy.
Every time. It's the worst. Okay, I think we need to wrap this up.
Okay.
Where's my phone?
It's been 4.5 hours.
Oh my God, Hemant just sent me his picture.
Oh, of a baby?
Oh, he's so cute. Oh. Okay, he didn't give me his name. It's probably not Tanner.
Jessica, just tweet it out without his
approval. Definitely. That's kind of my favorite. Okay, so I can say now it seems like everybody's happy and healthy. I haven't heard anything bad. Congrats to Hemant and his wife.
Congratulations.
This is baby number 2. I mean, I haven't seen this kid's name, but I assume it's not named after me, so that's 2 out of 2 not named after me, which frankly, what's a girl got to do? Anyway, congrats, Hemant.
Congrats.
Anne, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Jessica.
I was super pumped because I knew this is going to be, how long are we now? A million hours? 1 hour 45.
Okay. That's longer than usual.
It sure is. Yeah. But I have so much fun talking to you.
It's great. Always.
We always talk about starting our own podcast, but it would literally just be like,
we would have to zone in on something.
It would just be us yelling for 2 hours a week.
Who wants that? Is there a large audience for that?
So guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you for subbing in for Hemant.
My pleasure.
Guys, if you like what you're listening to, you can go to patreon.com/Friendly Atheist Podcast. It means the world to us. Well, I cannot say how much it means to me that human people give money toward this thing that I'm doing. It's flattering beyond belief. You can visit my Etsy page. It's Bitches Get Stitched Done. I actually have some vintage stuff that my mother-in-law is trying to sell. If you're into teapots with cats on them, then guess what? I have a set for you. I can't explain why.
Perfect.
She literally called me. She's like, "Do you want to sell my stuff?" I'm like,
okay.
I don't have anything else to do.
It's fine.
You can follow me at on Twitter at Blueberry, BLUEBURIE. Anne?
Mine is at Anne Bouleanu, ANNEBOULEANU. Also, poll, should I change my name? Goodbye.
I was just about to say, and how long have we known each other? 4 years? 5 years?
Yeah.
I've never said your last name out loud because I don't trust myself to say it correctly.
You're not alone.
Bouleanu, right?
Yeah. I once dated somebody for like 6 months. I was like, do you know yet? He was like, why don't you say it out loud first? I'm like, all right.
And I'll mimic it.
It's like I want to say like this is over, but like you're one of a large club, so it's fine. Oh, that sounded different. I mean, of people who don't know how to pronounce my name.
You can email us at friendlyatheistpodcast at gmail.com. I love to hear you guys' feedback. If you want to complain about my voice, that's fine. I need something to be mad about. Sometimes I feel dead inside and I need
the world is not enough to be mad at.
Guys, thank you for tuning in. This was a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it too. Sorry, we talked about serial killers so much.
It's fine, right? Maybe
it's fine. Thank you guys. We'll see you next week.